It is hard for sellers who sell every, 6, 7, 8 years.
My priority has always been to educate myself as much as possible.
The job of the real estate agent is to emotionally guide clients through a very emotional process, and it is hard work.
Their clients were freaking out, and when you have that going on, the transactions get a little bit out of control.
When that emotion level goes up here, to be the leader of the transaction, you got to be down here. That's a double, triple. That's a great project for us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Revive and Reveal, the show where we go beyond the transformations and tell the stories behind those pretty photos you see online. I'm Brian Daly, founder of We Revive, and today I'm joined by Sandra Major, and we're telling the story of a condo in Tierrasanta that we recently did together, and it was a good story of creativity and compassion, and then also just getting it done.
Yep.
So before we dive into all the details about the property, I want to learn a little bit more about you. So tell me a little bit about your journey into real estate.
Well, I grew up on construction sites. My dad built homes and my mom drew them, so I could always see the plans and then how it came into a house. And then when I was old enough, my dad would pay us to clean up the construction site.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So you really were born into it, and it's funny.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've always loved homes. My dad built our own home. My husband and I, we built our home, and I wanted to be a real estate agent since I was 18. So
Wow.
I was licensed in 1991, and so it's been 35 years.
Wow, not everybody has that kind of clarity that young. That's awesome.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're, 35 years, long time. Have you been consistent in real estate for the whole 35 years?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No. So I actually in 1991 we had a massive recession, and there were really no homes moving at all. So I leapt into the loan business, and I did refis for about 4 years until that started to change, and then I started working with buyers, and I was doing their loans at the same time. About 97, things really picked up, and I was full-time in it. And then 98, I had my first child, and then I had another one after that, and I have 3 now. So I've kind of moved in and out, and kind of took a big step aside about 11 years ago when I got a divorce. And but I've always kept my toe in it in one way or another, just different roles, but still in real estate.
Yeah, 3 kids is a full-time job in and of itself.
Yes.
My wife would attest to that.
Yeah.
So you have experience in both the financial side and the real estate transaction side, which is a huge plus.
Yeah.
How often do you use that today?
Not so much the loan part, because it's changed a lot,
Yeah.
but just understanding how it works and understanding how loans can be structured, and it definitely helps. And I even did a little bit of appraisal work when
nice.
I had my 3rd child.
That's also super important, because
Really important.
valuations are so, sometimes the opinions are so off.
Yeah, it's totally subjective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that I've kind of hit all the bases with it, and it helps. I mean, when I'm talking to clients, we can hit on all of the points, and it's credible because I've actually done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm curious your thoughts on the early 90s and the housing market recession, I guess, during that period, and how that compared to post 22 when the interest rates shot up recently.
Feels very similar.
Does it? Okay.
Very, very similar. So so in 2022, that's when my business really changed. So I was pretty much doing full-time transaction coordination,
Okay.
and I was managing files for agents, and it really dried up because the Fed raised rates over a dozen times in a really short period, and buyers just backed way off, and that's how it was in 91. I mean, they just wanted to wait. It's like, well, sometimes 6 months, a year they're looking, and there was no incentive for them to move forward or make a decision, because they felt like prices would keep dropping, or more foreclosures would come up,
or rates would come down. And,
yeah.
It's
a lot of fear.
We were just talking before the show about how I study the market, and there was a lot of fear in 22 22, the back half of 22, that we were entering another housing crash.
I think there's still fear.
Yeah.
Different things.
But I study these different housing recessions on paper. I don't often get to talk to people who went through it. The idea that 2022 was different than 2008, it was clear to me on paper, but I never had much experience, obviously, in '91. And it looked really similar to what was happening in '91. Interest rates went up, affordability went way down, and the housing market just stalled.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
But we had the refi boom. So, rates, I think when I started were 10%,
Yeah.
and they dropped to 9, 8, 7, 7.5, and you could just call people every year, every 6 months, no cost, no.
I can't even imagine what would happen today if interest rates shot back up that high. I mean, everyone was in shock with sevens, but I mean, back in the day, there was a time period where it was 19, 18% for a home loan.
Right.
That would have crashed home prices.
Yeah, just
sure.
affordability was different, though. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many different factors
Yeah.
going on there.
How did you first come across We Revive? Do you remember?
I do, actually. I believe it was on Instagram. And
Michelle's face, right?
In Michelle's face,
Yeah.
And my phone must have been listening to conversations that I was having, because I was actually talking to my partner at the time about possibly scooping the property up and taking it for ourselves, fixing it up, and then flipping it, because these people did not want to pick up a paintbrush. They didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They didn't want to screw in a new light bulb. Zero.
Yeah.
And they were adamant about that. So I couldn't force them to fix up their house. All
Yeah.
I could do is get them, the quickest sale.
Yeah. Oh, and they had a big move, right? They were
back
moving out of
east.
state.
Yeah, they had already purchased the property out there. Yep.
So, and was this one of your first transactions after coming back into full-time real estate?
No, there was one about a year or two ago that
Okay.
I sold in Forest Ranch. It was kind of a friend of a friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you, in that time period, it still is somewhat of a housing recession. I mean, sales volume is down 40% compared to normal.
Right.
So you were coming back into it. Do you have any advice for agents that are kind of trying to think about re-engaging?
To renew their career?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my priority has always been to educate myself as much as possible, not just the nuts and bolts of the transaction, knowing the contract, but also trends. Just educate yourself, because if you're coming back into it from a lapse, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And because you don't have a whole big long list of clients or listings or buyers that you worked with, so you just have knowledge. That's
Well,
it.
and for you, it sounds like you, even though you weren't actively doing it the whole time, you had as you said, your toe in the water the whole time. You were keeping a pulse on.
Yeah, I mean, that
on.
was valuable. I was
Yeah.
managing transactions for agents, and when I was with Compass, before nobody knew who Compass was. So when they first started here, I was one of their first staff TCs, and I had, I'm not kidding you, 130 transactions under my belt.
Wow.
80 compliance, 50 full service. So I can churn 50, files in a month, and that's a lot of transactions to see.
Yeah.
So you're seeing, what's selling, what the negotiations were, the buyer concessions and how that's changed, COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
So that's relevant,
Yeah.
because then when you're talking to an actual seller,
Yeah.
you can say, well, this is what sellers are doing now.
Yeah, it's
They're-
normal.
Right.
And it is hard for sellers who sell every 6, 7, 8 years. Like their
Yeah.
experience with real estate is maybe what they hear from their friends, but then their last transaction, which
Right.
is definitely way different these
Yeah,
days.
but their friends have so much input. And
Yeah, I know.
You have to know more than them.
We in our call before the show, we were talking about how the job of the real estate agent is to emotionally guide clients through a very emotional process, and it is hard work.
Well, what I learned being a TC for agents is that the emotion level really needs to be tapered down. And what I saw during COVID and post-COVID were a lot of really kind of wigged out agents. I'm not kidding. I mean, just their emotional regulation wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so their clients were freaking out. And when you have that going on, the transactions get a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
And so I really learned to stay zen,
Yeah.
which is amazing because I'm a mom of 3,
Yeah.
divorced and all this, crazy
It's
stuff
like
going on.
when
but
that emotion level goes up here, to be the leader of the transaction, you got to be down here.
you have to be zen.
Yeah.
And you have to know the contract inside and out so that you can direct them what they can and can't do, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I could go on, but
it's so true though. Like when,
but you also like, and when I was working with these sellers, it was a mom and a daughter. The daughter was very practical, very logical, but her mom was more emotional, and that took some finesse to kind of get them on the same page because mom wanted it sold like weeks ago and was willing to do anything just to part with the property. And Holly and I were just kind of like, well, we got to hang in there. We need, some time. We need to figure this out, and then we can make some quick moves.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. But holding space for your client is important. You can't just text them and expect them to be okay.
Yeah.
You got to pick up the phone, and actually you have to call them or show up before their questions are stirring around in their head. That's how you manage people, is you kind of anticipate what their thoughts are going to be, and then you fix it before they have to worry about it.
That's a good point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a great way to look at it. Anticipation. Not, instead of being reactive, you're
proactive.
Yeah, proactive.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I constantly try to develop in the team, because it being proactive saves so much time. It takes
does.
time
Yeah.
to think about it, but it saves so much time in the long run.
So much time, and everyone's happier when you can do that.
Yeah.
And I think it came from waiting tables. Sorry, we're getting off topic, but when you wait tables,
No, it's not off topic at all.
You have to fill their
I feel like everybody needs to wait some tables in their life, right? I mean,
yeah, I agree.
It should be
100% agree.
mandatory. Maybe public service and then wait tables should be
Yep.
2 mandatory things.
Agree.
Okay, so you've mentioned this a few times, like Zen and keeping yourself grounded. Like outside of real estate, what grounds you? What do you do to keep yourself happy, fulfilled, grounded?
You mean like walking barefoot on grass?
Yeah, there you go. Does that work?
I do that. Yeah. I mean, my home grounds me, and that does work.
Nice.
I teach yoga.
Okay.
And
nice.
I'm, very health-minded, so I have, protocols, good sleep, drink magnesium at night, work out in the gym. We're talking about leg day, and I've been playing a ridiculous amount of pickleball.
Oh, nice. You're in the pickleball fad. That's good.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. I need an intervention,
Oh.
actually, but
I think it's great.
Yeah, it's good.
And this is off topic too, but you brought up yoga, so I'm going to bring it up. I read a lot. I read a lot of business books, very strategical, tactical, personal development. I recently read a book by Michael Singer, Surrender Experiment. It's a great book.
Okay.
I mean, it's so different than what I normally read, but he's in that, he grew up in the kind of the hippie time period and really leaned into the yoga meditation world, and he just turned into this big old business mogul that was super grounded in meditation, non-materialistic, but he ended up building $1 billion company, and it was super interesting.
That's fantastic.
I highly recommend it. I'm trying to be more surrender experiment in my life now. It's a great
It's
book.
a struggle for people.
Yeah.
When I tell them that I teach yoga, they're like, "Oh, I could never do yoga. I can't be still." It's like, well, that's exactly why
you need it,
you
right?
need to do it.
I know.
And I never thought I would be doing it, but yeah.
It's whatever works for giving you that space and internal peace. It's that I don't think there's one size fits all for anything, but you have to find it. You have to find what works for you.
Yeah, and the teaching isn't really for me. I take it for me. I like the, the hot, like the Bikram style, that grounds me. But teaching it is, for me personally, giving back. And I don't get a lot out of it, but I know that when my sankalpa, they say, is to have people or places better than they were when they, before I touched their lives. And so that's my goal. When I go in and I teach a class, and sometimes it's just, calling out their name or helping adjust, their warrior two or something like that. But it's just making space for people. And sometimes, they fall apart after a class, and you got to give them an actual hug. It's been really good, though.
That's good.
It's good
That's
to
awesome.
Get back.
That's awesome. Well,
off topic,
but I love it. I love going off topic. All right, so let's. Are you ready to dive into the story?
I'm ready.
All right, so we're gonna go transfer to the big screen
Awesome.
and get in front of the photos.
Okay.
All right. Now we're gonna talk a little bit. Well, we're gonna talk a lot about the story and the property. So, we did a transaction together late 2025, 10828 Lamington Court.
Lamenton.
Lamenton? I've always called it
Lamenton.
Lamenton.
I know.
Lamenton. Oh man, that's great. All right, Lamenton Court. I have 6 months of saying it wrong. This was on the market for a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it was, not only are we in a tough real estate market, and Q3, Q4 2025 was one of the toughest. But condos in particular are having really hard time right now. And this is a townhome condo.
Right.
But then also individual condo associations, depending upon their health, are having even harder time.
Issues, yeah.
So this is an example of one of those properties that we had not only a condo townhome, which is in low demand compared to detached at least.
Right.
But then we also had condo issues, right? So there was, that was, I think, the main theme that the seller was experiencing when they were trying to sell it. So let me ask, step back and start from the beginning. What was the seller's situation specifically?
The seller situation was they decided that they were going to move back east to be with family, and they had already purchased the property.
Okay.
And they called me late June after, I don't know, 30 years. I think I sold them the property in May of 1996. I never sent them a postcard, but they called me and they asked if I was still in business. I said, yes, of course, I'd love to help you.
Stuck in their memory. It's hard to do. Good job.
Walked in the property and nothing had changed, not one thing, except for the walls, which they painted a dandelion yellow, like we're talking Crayola crayon, bright yellow.
So do we have any of those photos?
Floors were all, mismatched. Appliances didn't work. All of the homeowners there at Villa Martinique, there it is.
There's the yellow.
Yeah, and in the staircase, it's even brighter. So I know they liked it, and I'm not knocking them. I mean, they enjoyed that, but for selling a home in this market, buyers are just super duper picky, and they just want things really pretty.
Yeah.
They had just been assessed $3,000 by the HOA because the master insurance policy had gone up in price.
Yeah.
And that was, throughout the whole HOA. And there were some concerns about the fire insurance master policy. Nothing set, but there were, things in the meeting minutes that were referring to that. And that's countywide. I mean, that's happening across the board. So, so it was a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, like when you own a home, make it what you want it to be, right? It's your home.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and
right.
But then when you go to sell, it does help to have a strategy behind it. If you have the gumption to make it more down the middle for the buyers that you're going for, right?
And there was no going down the middle for these people. They had 3 cats that they were very protective of, so all of the showings needed to go through me. Which is also tough because, when you're a buyer, you want to see it when you want to see it.
Especially in today's Amazon-inspired world.
Absolutely.
You just want to go.
I mean, vacant lockbox, that's the way to go, and fixed up like an HGTV model.
Yeah.
And this one didn't check any of those boxes. But it was, I always liked this property because it was really well located and it had great sun exposure. And it's an interesting floor plan. There's not a lot of those in there, but yeah, we definitely had some challenges as I'm looking at it here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was a light bulb that was hanging off of the...
Well, luckily that's kind of what we look for. But we always hope, like, if people have the time, you're going to get more money if you sell it traditionally than if you sell it to an investor. That's most of the time pretty clear.
And actually, back to the point about how I found you guys, one of the ways that you work with realtors is sometimes you'll partner with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was looking for, was maybe bring in a partner who had a crew.
Yeah.
Because I, brought in my guy,
Yeah.
but he's kind of a landscape guy. He wouldn't have been perfect to really doll up the property, but a company like yours that has the crew and has, the materials and the paint swatches already in place, you could just go in and bang it out. And that's kind of what I was thinking, is that I would partner with you, but then, you came in with an offer and the seller was like, let's go.
Yeah.
So it made it really easy. I think we closed in like 8 days,
Yeah,
8 or 10 days.
quick, yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. It was a tough property for us to underwrite because of the issues with the HOA and just condos and townhomes in general.
Yeah.
So we had to be kind of conservative on the offer, on the value.
Right.
But what I remember having this conversation with you, is like, I kind of felt bad about the offer we were putting out.
I remember that. Yeah. I mean, you actually have a conscience.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I remember the conversation. Yeah.
So we structured the offer in a way that if the property overperformed on our expectations, the majority of the money was going to go back to the seller. So I think in this case, it was a super simple rehab. Obviously, a lot of cosmetic.
Well, for you guys.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I mean, we have the systems and whatnot dialed in.
Because the people that I brought in, I mean, they would have done half of what you did, and it still would have been kind of a flip fixer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been buttoned up like you guys did it.
So the offer was $440,000. Now, there was some semblance of comps that were kind of old before HOA issues that showed this, similar models were selling in the higher sixes when they were all fixed up. But that HOA was kind of a new issue. So I remember talking to you guys, being like, look, I want to be able to offer more, but I can't because of the risk of what it is going to be on the resale side.
Right.
But if our ARV was $640,000. So if we did better than $640,000, we signed an agreement that the seller was going to get 75 cents of every dollar above that. So
they couldn't believe it.
Now, did that help with the seller's decision making, or was that just kind of a cherry on top that they?
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, please.
I did not present it to them right away because what I didn't want to do was give them the impression that this was all going to happen and that it would be sold so much more. Their objective was to move out on like the 14th of August. They had everything lined up, their moving trucks, and then have the cash in their bank as soon as possible. And if I would have brought up some kind of a profit sharing at the time, I think it would have just kind of confused what was happening.
Yeah.
So I kept it very simple for them and then presented it probably 2 days before closing.
Okay.
And they were thrilled.
Okay.
They were just like, really? Are you kidding me? I mean, these are very gracious.
They were
people.
so nice. They were so nice.
They are so nice.
Yeah.
Really, really just
I love their cats too. They were
people.
great.
They were funny,
I do like cats.
Yeah.
So this is just, I mean, there was, we see a lot of beat up houses. This was not a beat up house. It wasn't, and we didn't do any structural or layout modifications, which usually we are. We're taking down walls, we're moving bathrooms.
Yeah.
So from a speed and efficiency standpoint, it was straightforward. But there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and then
that was a red flag for some people.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure.
I had quite a few investors go through. And that was the number one question. And I even suggested to the seller, I said, we could clean that up, patch it up. There wasn't like a water intrusion issue there.
Yeah.
It was, I think when the windows were replaced, they just never fixed it.
It looks
that,
honestly like it rained one day and they left the window open and then never repaired it.
Well, that was from the old windows. But when they came in with the new windows,
They just put them in.
They never fixed it.
Yeah.
So this is not what they do.
Yeah. And, it's funny enough, I'm not a handy person. I don't do a lot of fixing in my house. I hire people, but
Yeah.
Homeownership can be tough. This is just an example. They had newer windows already, which also is kind of saved us on an expense. So obviously now the slides are telling us to go into the actual renovation part of it. I just want to make sure.
So I appreciate that all those cabinets got ripped out, because the person that I brought through that I would have maybe hired, they were going to paint the cabinets, and they weren't very good cabinets. They weren't even when they were new. So yeah, that's a big plus right there.
Yeah, we find we rarely paint cabinets. Oftentimes, it's to do it the right way, to actually paint cabinets the right way, which no one in our space really does. It's kind of expensive. You have to do a lot of prep, sanding, painting, and then repainting.
Yeah.
And to do it right, you're taking a lot of the stuff off anyway, and then you got to put it back together.
Right.
It's honestly,
I've been through that.
and then you still don't. Most of the time, you still don't have the slow close that people want nowadays.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
So we
And
rarely
people notice that.
Yeah, they do.
Even in a condo,
Yeah.
little condo, they want the best of the best.
Yeah. So going to the renovation again, we didn't try to take down that wall. There would have been no space for a kitchen if we did. This is the demo.
Yeah.
We try to look at every property different, because our buyer pool is going to be different. And what we realized in the comparables is that you did kind of have a lot of half renovated properties.
Right.
And we knew that we were going to struggle with the HOA in general. So we, typically in this price point in a condo, it's all about affordability. So we one of the strategies that people in our space look at is like, how can I get this done for as cheap as possible so I can list it as cheap as possible and sell it as fast as possible. We did a little bit different. We chose specific parts to upgrade that wouldn't normally do if it was affordability play. But the goal was to have a buyer fall in love with it and hopefully want to go through the pain of trying to figure out the HOA.
Well, that's where the emotional buy-in, it really has to happen, is if a buyer walks in, and Tierrasanta is a nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
And people, they stay in that neighborhood, and they hop around within that zip code.
It really is a hidden gem.
It is.
I love, every time I go there, it's quiet. It's a lot of trees, a lot of well-grown trees.
It's one of San Diego's first master plan communities, and they used to call it the island in the hills.
Primarily military. It was a lot of military housing when it was first built.
Yeah, right. In the southern part of Tierrasanta, yes. But then it really built up in the 80s with the whole Tierra Norte, and I actually lived there for 7 years, and that's how I kind of found myself in Villa Martinique. So I sold and helped buyers in a lot of those little units.
Yeah, we've done over the years. I've been doing this since 2010. So I've probably done 3, 4, 5 of the units in there. And before we didn't have those HOA trouble. It was always a in-demand complex because you don't have covered parking, which keeps the price down. So from an affordability standpoint, it's always been more affordable than a lot of the other.
It's the entry level Tierrasanta. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And when I was selling in there, in fact, when Holly bought it, there was litigation.
Really?
Yeah, we had builder litigation. So there's always been something. And it was a challenge to get financing then, actually. Anyway, that's a long story. But so people's kids buy those in Tierrasanta, and they stay there. But you guys did a really classy job. I mean, you even did the little opening there in the upstairs bath, and then I noticed the downstairs bath.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah, that was, I know we have a picture in here
Because that
somewhere.
was like a broom closet with a toilet in it before, and now it's, I mean, with the, is it that called beadboard in there?
It's called wainscoting.
Wainscot, okay.
But beadboard, I think, is also the material. So we chose two things to kind of try to level up, which we wouldn't normally do at this price point. The first one was that half bath. We have found, and I don't know why, but we have found that when we have this half bath in a house, you spend time on the design, and buyers freaking love it. And I think the emotional thing is, this is the bathroom that most of your guests are going to be using.
Exactly.
And so now you
Yeah.
got to show off,
I
like,
hate to say it, it's like an ego thing.
it is.
Yeah.
But that's what you're doing. Like, and it feels like it's a manipulation. But honestly, like in sales, right? We are.
Oh, it's just giving
Our
people what
product
they
is
want.
trying to sell. It's like that turbo button on a Tesla, right? It's whoever really uses it. But it's cool to know that you got it.
Right. That's a good analogy.
So
Yeah.
our goal when we're doing any remodel is, what can we do to make a buyer say, wow, like, how can we do one thing or a couple things that stand out above other projects and other flips for that, buyer pool, that make a buyer fall in love with the house. That's always our goal. We don't always succeed, but that is always our goal. In this case, I think we did it.
It's smart business, but also, I was thinking about it, and just, the more that you put into that property and the better you make it, you're actually helping the neighborhood. Because if you're not just reviving one property, you're reviving the comps.
It sets a new bar.
It does. It sets a new bar.
Yeah.
And then, because all flips are not the same.
Yeah.
I bought a flip for myself after my divorce, and there's
We don't have to get into that story.
Won't get into it, but let me just say that, this is the kind of flip that, most people would be really comfortable just moving right in.
Yeah.
It's high
Thank
quality.
you. Team works.
Thank
the
you.
team works
It
hard.
turned out great.
So I think we have a finish. So the other thing that we did was the railing.
Love it.
It's not a huge expense, but again, normally on a lower price point house, we'll try to keep what's there if it's usable. And what was there was usable. It just wasn't the style that we wanted. But I felt like that upgrade, along with the half bath,
Yeah, it
just
sure did.
just helped make, when you walked in, just made it feel like, hey, this is a step above what else you can get in the community.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think there's a photo later of the half bath.
Okay.
So I'll go into the numbers real quick on my cheat sheet. So our projected budget going into it was $72,000, and we had a 49-day window. We get down to the days. One day I'll get down to the hours, but
Wow.
we get down to the days on our pro forma. And so our actual renovation cost was we actually came under budget. Doesn't always happen. $69,525. There was, as we kind of showed, it was a lot of cosmetic, but there was no surprises behind the walls. There was no moving walls, which usually can delay or you find things.
Right.
So
Good.
and we were able to. The team crushed it on timeline. They got it done in 37 days compared to 49 on the pro forma.
Wow.
So 25% savings there. And part of the reason why we do the show is, sometimes we're not talking about properties that go well. Sometimes we're talking about properties that go bad. But it's to show there's more than just what we pay for it and what it sells for. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of risk, a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of things that can go right.
You've got all the carrying costs
Yep.
too.
Yep.
And you have to have people show up. I was contemplating fixing it up with the partner.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I had renovations going on at my home.
Oh, yeah.
And just getting people to show up. And
Okay.
then they show up and the bids are out of whack. And I was just like, do I really want to do this?
Getting renovations
I'm
done
not
on
a
your own home
professional. I'd
is
just rather not.
it is way harder than, I have been putting off an outdoor project on my own home for years because it's just so much harder than doing a flip. I would rather do $1.5 million rebuild that we just finished in Carlsbad than spend a couple $100,000 on my house, because it's too personal. All the
interesting.
decisions. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so we started off, right. We got it done. We got it done quick and quicker and under budget. And so that always feels good when we get on
Good.
when we go to sell it, because it gives us a little bit of pad. Like if we missed a little bit on our ARV, we can reduce, by $15,000 without actually affecting what we thought the bottom line was. So this is what.
Wow.
When we went to sell it, this is what it looked like at the end.
So pretty. It's staging too. Really nice.
Thank you. Universal Staging, I think, did this one. So there we go. There's the bathroom. And honestly, the vanity is probably $300, $400 more than we would normally spend. And the beadboarding and the detail, that probably cost us another $500,000. It wasn't a big expense, but it's just our designer Kayla and we have a internal carpenter who does like just these projects. That's his job pretty much, is to come in and do. So our crew can focus on the main things, and then we go in there and like, hey, these things need special time and attention.
Yeah. But even these kind of details, it makes people feel like, well, I'm paying more than maybe at the last comp, but they're getting something so much nicer than just your stock standard Home Depot silver price, Kohler fixture.
Yeah. Well, I wish they were paying more than they didn't end up paying more than the last comp. But
that is the market, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that this had a lot to do with the fact that it could have sat, and a lot of properties sit in that community for a very long time, and it didn't. It did sit for a couple of weeks. And I will admit, we as a team, we were getting a little nervous because the market was deteriorating at the time. This was in, I think by this point, it was like October, November time period.
So getting close to the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what I ended up, and then I'll get to that in a sec. As far as the property, we had the ARV. Our after repair value was $640,000. The team did deep comp research when we went to sell it, and we realized that we could not list it where we wanted to. So we ended up listing it at $624,900. At $625 was our original list price, because we actually got a mailer or a postcard from the Condo Association while we were in rehab, and it made it actually seem worse than what we thought. And so we were getting really nervous, more so that the HOA was going to be an even harder problem than it was.
What was the mailer?
There was only 2 lenders that they knew of that would finance the building.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. So it was I don't know if it was that and insurance too. There was talking about the HOA issues. So anyway, our strategy was, without undercutting it too much, let's list it low.
Wow.
And we still sat for 3 weeks, no offers. And then suddenly, we had 3 offers in one weekend. Did nothing to change it. It was 21 days in.
Wow.
2 of those offers were below 600, and one of them was pretty close to list price. So we counted all of them, and we were able to get the price bid back up to 636. So
It's fantastic.
we were close to getting our ARV,
great.
but didn't get it. But no complaints whatsoever there. So I had a note here. We discussed you relisting this when we were going back and forth, and you chose that you thought it was better for the seller that we just did it and listed it internally because we could pay a little bit more. What was going through your mind when we talked about that?
I was just where I always sit, which is my duty and fiduciary duties to the seller.
Yeah.
And I wanted what was absolutely best for them. I wanted them to get as much money as possible. It wasn't even in my thought to, double end it, or, I didn't want to do that. It was more, how can I, fulfill their goal of getting in their moving truck, knowing that there's a check landing in a couple of days.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's good on you. A lot of agents don't do that.
I
So
know.
I wanted to make sure that we talked about it because that's a noble thing to do. Your livelihood is based on commissions and
It's doing the right thing, and I think what goes around comes around. And what I wanted too was for it to be good for you because you were coming in like, you didn't really want to buy a condo,
It's true.
And I could tell that you're a little, but it was kind of like, well, could we make this work, and how can it work? And so everyone had to give a little bit, and I know this wasn't a slam dunk, but it was good.
Yeah.
And it's great for the buyer too. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And so everybody wins. And
Yeah,
that's the goal, is always just win, win, win.
So we sold it at 636, and I think the last sale of that similar, remodeled property was 675. So I think they got a good deal, and hopefully a better remodel than that 675 comp. And
Yeah.
sellers, they at that point they just needed to close and move on.
Yeah. We had a failed escrow.
Yeah.
Higher.
Yeah.
But it didn't go through, and
Yeah.
the guy was really flaky in the end, and we didn't want to deal with that. We needed 100%, and that's why my partner were willing to go in.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we could do it. We didn't want to though.
I know.
So,
same thing I was doing.
this was great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I found you guys. I mean, because I've had other people call me, and again, not everybody wants to fix and stage their home, and there's agents out there saying, well, if you want to put your house on the market, you have to do all these things. And some people don't want to, or they can't afford to, and they just don't want to deal with it. And they've got cats that they're more worried about. So there has to be option A, B, and C for sellers, especially now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
So this has been a really good solution for me, and hope it continues.
So as we wrap up here, we'll just go full transparency into how the numbers played out. So we bought it for $440. Our rental cost, as we talked about, was $69,525. Our buying cost on the buy escrow, I think we covered closing costs for the seller was $5,900.
Yeah.
Financing costs all together, loan fees and interest and everything else was $16,972. And then other costs for us, that's like insurance, property taxes, utilities, staging photos, and any of that miscellaneous stuff. So that this is, people underestimate. That's $11,000 for a relatively small purchase. So those add up. Selling cost was $25,440. It was mostly the commission to the buyer's agent, and then we did the team did a super clean remodel. We have implemented processes now where we're doing full home inspections after our punch list, and then we're doing another punch list, and we weren't always doing that, and it has helped a ton. Getting out with only 216 buyer credits and requests for repairs is
that's significant.
it's hard to do.
I don't see that very often.
I
was kind of shocked. I thought maybe that was a misprint.
Well, before we implemented that, our averages were like 1.5%, 2% buyer credits total.
Okay.
Like sometimes we negotiate that up front, but then with repairs and whatnot
See,
coming
it just
up.
goes back to that proactivity.
Yeah.
You're being proactive.
Yeah.
You're anticipating what the buyer might possibly call out
Yeah.
on the punch list, and sometimes they're asking for really silly stuff.
And they can these days. The buyers have the power still.
Right, right. No, so that's really smart. I mean, having systems in place, especially with real estate, will always pay dividends.
Yeah.
And so that's how I managed 130 transactions. I had to find a way to grease the wheel, and then
Yeah, you have to. You
saves
have
money and time.
You have to automate. You have to template whenever you can. You have to have those checklists, especially when you start involving other people.
Right.
And the profit in the grand scheme of things. So we sometimes we bring in an investor joint venture as an equity partner. In this case, we didn't. We self-funded it. I was a little bit worried about the risk of bringing foreign investors. So we used our own funds, and the total profit was $66,977. For purchase price $440, that for us is that's a double, triple. That's a great project for us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And it could have gone the other way with the HOA. So I made a note here is like that. Our target profit on this was about 45,000. So we ended up doing better than we thought because of the time and the construction savings.
Yeah.
But we also had a very big discussion. It's like this might not work, and we might end up with a new rental that we don't necessarily want.
Oh, man.
So
Yeah. Well,
this is one of those flyers that ended up paying off, but it
It's
could have
good.
easily not.
And it was a good property. I mean, it had all of the right things wrong with it.
Yeah.
But it was good, well situated, and good zip code.
Yeah.
Tierrasanta is always a winner. Yeah. So how are you looking at HOAs these days in condos? Are you kind of
Very, very sporadically. We have a buy box that updates as we see where the market's going. We have for a while we've said no stack flat condos unless it's sent to us off market in a situation where they just have to move, and we're very transparent. It's like we're not going to be the highest offer on this from an investor standpoint. We are very conservative on condos, but we
Right.
will give you an offer, and we will work with you, and we'll go non-contingent and all that for the seller.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we stack flat condos are when you have condos stacked up on top of each other. We will still look at townhomes. I'm okay with townhomes, but the HOAs are a big problem. We try to. There's a shout out to Scott Evans. Scott Evans is a lender that we work with every once in a while, and he and his team realized that this HOA issue was happening, and he created a whole process within his team where if you're a buyer considering buying a condo, you can just reach out to his team. Okay. You fill out a little questionnaire about the property, and they will do all the research about the financeability, the insurance, and everything, and they'll give you a report back. Say, hey, yeah, this is okay to buy, or.
And did this one go FHA?
We tried.
Oh.
So we put it under contract, and it was before the seasoning period ended because we did the renovation so quick. So we couldn't.
Oh.
We were under contract for I think 60, 70 days because they couldn't even start their loan program until the seasoning. And then when they started the loan program, they quickly realized the FHA loan wasn't going to work out anyway. And so they had to go to a non-QM lender.
Okay.
Wow. Which was, I mean, super lucky because there's many FHA buyers that can't qualify for the non-QM loans. So, so it worked out.
Amazing. It's great.
Last question for you. What advice would you give agents facing similar, tough sale conditions, condo, timeline? What advice would you give
to the seller?
To an agent or seller in those circumstances?
Well, the seller in this case, I prepped them really early on, and I told them that the likelihood that it would sell to an investor because they didn't want to pick up a paintbrush was, 90%. And I explained to them what that meant. It would be cash, but it would be really, really low. And so we decided to price it kind of retail, and I gave them 2 weeks. And I said, this is your 2 weeks notice. In 2 weeks, we're going to have the paperwork. I'm going to send it to you, and we're going to do this price reduction. And we actually had to do that more times than I wanted to. But that you have to explain to them, really what the market is, and that they have to take action. They can't drag their feet because you're going to chase the market down. Yeah,
and you have to take big cuts if you're going to do cuts.
Big cuts. Right.
And that's a good example of you being proactive, right? You're having the conversation before. You're having the tough conversation before it's ever necessary. It's necessary, but then when it is necessary, there's no. I use this with the team often. Frustration is only unmet expectations. People have expectations, and being proactive is making sure that you set the right expectations, so that when or if something goes wrong, they it's not a surprise.
Right. No, you're constantly softening the blow for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's your job as a realtor, is not to, everything's not unicorns and sparkles. It's, and especially this one. And then as far as agents go, I mean, I did my homework and I made sure that I had lenders look at and I got a copy of the master policy and I sent it to some lenders and I said, so, what can we do here? And I wasn't getting a lot of resistance. It seemed okay at the time that I had it listed. That was one thing. And then, just make it as marketable and seeable as possible. So, I couldn't talk them out of, not having a lockbox on there. Because of the cats. But
I think there's a premium that we get as investors and flippers, for lack of a better word, just for the convenience factor of being vacant on lockbox.
Yeah.
And being able to show, and then when you go in, you're seeing staging that doesn't look like you're walking through someone's personal belongings, which it always feels weird, even to this day. I just saw a property yesterday. I'm like, man, I feel so invasive. When you're walking through someone. So there's an element of just getting a premium for that, which is, I don't necessarily think it's fair, but it is reality.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's what staging is supposed to be, is depersonalize the home and declutter it. I mean, that was something that I learned years ago from Barb Schwartz. You ever heard of her?
No.
Yeah, she was kind of the first one that came out with it was a big seminar. You had to sign up for it on staging. And no one, what's this staging stuff? Huh. Yeah. So,
that's good.
But a lot of people don't want to do it.
I've told my wife, whenever we move again, every time we move, we are moving out of the house first. We are painting it. We're redoing floors or whatnot if we have to. And we're going to stage it. And then I know that the holding cost and the cost for staging and all that is going to more than make up for itself.
Absolutely.
In the fact that I am not having to live through people walking through my house.
Right.
Because that to me is an invasion of my privacy. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then
because you can't not see like the clothes and judge them a little bit. I mean, it just happens. And I walked into houses too where I see one bank of the closet empty and the other bank with only women's clothes, and there's a vibe in the house. And I just tell my clients, I said, I think they're getting a divorce, or they've got a divorce going on. So, and to me, the energy can pass in the house. So it's just, it's way too personal.
Yeah.
I like your idea.
Well, hey, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was great working with you.
Yes, it was.
Thanks if you hung out this long. Thank you so much. Hopefully we taught you a thing or two, and you can use it in your business. See you next time.